Welcome back to Ignite Parenting. It's always a joy to have you join us. Today, I have some dear friends that are going to help you on the journey to equip you in terms of better parenting, but providing some resources for those of you that might be considering adoption or fostering.
Welcome to the Ignite podcast, where biblical wisdom meets modern parenting, where it's our mission to help empower and equip parents and caregivers, as well as the local church, walking with you in implementing faith-filled language for everyday moments through God's love, a blend of encouragement, real stories, and honest conversations, so families can actively engage with their children and transmit their faith to the next generation. Let's get into it.
With me today is Rhonda and Elly Tennison. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
We are excited. It's been a couple of tries for us, and finally you're in studio. It's the middle of summer, and so I'm thinking the heat outside yesterday was 102 where I was, and we are experiencing a heat wave, but grateful to have you. For those of us that are not familiar with you, some of you might recognize you as Dr. Elly Tennison, our Theological Counsel for Assemblies of God. I know we have a new podcast that highlights some very important theological moments to help equip just everyone in the church. It's not just for pastors, it's for everyday believers. So I'm going to let you introduce yourselves and tell our audience a little bit about your journey and your family. You want to begin? You want Elly to begin?
Okay, so we're Rhonda and Elly Tennison. We moved to Springfield a couple of years ago. We have been married for almost 16 years.
Woohoo!
And yeah, we have a 10-year-old son. And we've been involved with ministries for families in crisis. And we're foster parents.
And I'll add a little bit more about my wife. So she started out, in ministry. She worked in Romania, actually working with abandoned babies.
Wow.
And so
this is your calling.
It is, very
God
much.
called you to this.
And then
Very
for a
much so.
time, she was with AG, Assemblies of God World Mission. Then when we got married, she transferred over to Assemblies of God U.S. Mission and worked with children at risk. So while we started ministry together in Los Angeles. And so she was actually helping inner city churches develop after-school programs, able to get grant money, overseeing these programs so that, kids would have a alternative when school, because there was a time when LA school districts simply closed their after-school programs. And it was a great opportunity for the church to kind of step in and provide something. And so Rhonda has been doing this, ministering to the abandoned, ministering to those who are at risk, almost since I've known her.
I love that. This isn't just something that you do. This is who you are, and this is what God has called both of you. Getting to know you has been wonderful for me. So I think throughout our time together, as you share, those that are listening are going to find the same encouragement that I have found in our conversations and resources in terms of tips and ideas that you've learned that you wish someone would have told you when you got out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your personal journey in terms of adoption and fostering. I met the baby.
Yeah.
He's in studio with us today, the best one, right?
Yeah.
And but this isn't your only one, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And I want to kind of distinguish between when we talk about foster and adoption. So you have adoption, then you have foster to adopt, then you have fostering. And fostering is not about adoption. That's about reunification. And so those are two separate things that are really there's two separate goals here. And so my wife and I have never done foster to adopt. We've done fostering, and then we've had 2 failed adoptions. And so that's kind of our experience. But in the fostering side, it's always been about reunification with parents. Mm-hmm. And so and then another part of this has also been respite care, which is really where our journey begins.
So back in 2018, we lost a pregnancy. We lost our baby Donovan. And that is what kind of catapulted us into the foster care bringing other kids into our home. You know, as you've heard, I have a lot of experience with working with families in crisis and children in difficult situations. And so that's always been on my heart. And so I think as a couple, that was when God started working in our hearts and, you know, adoption. At the same time, we found out about Together for Good. And it's an amazing ministry. It's started in Minneapolis, and Maridel is a good friend, the director and founder of that. So they came to our church right around that time. I was still recovering from losing the pregnancy, and they came and they were talking to us about how they come and wrap around families in crisis, and have host families that take care of the children while mom is maybe sorting out housing or drug treatment or whatever the situation was. And so, so we immediately said, yes, this is definitely something we're interested in doing.
And let me just highlight the difference between this and foster care. Respite care is something parents sign up for. Whereas whereas in a lot of foster situations, CPS steps in, Child Protective Services. So this is one where a parent can say, before it gets to the point where CPS has to step in, I need help. And so they can immediately reach out, and because they're signing up, anytime they want their child back, they can just say, you know, the deal's over and the child comes back, which gives them the freedom to feel confident. There's no courts involved. It's basically this great, you know, release valve that you're giving families before it becomes a crisis that requires the courts to intervene. And so it's
that's powerful because it gives you an opportunity to get things sorted out without the pressure of the legal system intervening. And it's a great place for the church to be involved.
It is such an amazing opportunity for the church to be the church to those families. And so many of those families wouldn't necessarily come to our churches, but they come and say, we need help, you know, because there's so many single parents, you know, trying to raise kids, and they don't have the support network that they need. You know, they don't necessarily trust people, you know, in their sphere to take care of their kids, and they just don't, or they don't have people close enough that they could even ask.
So we had one mom, you know, who was going to be homeless, you know, and she said, hey, if I could have someone just watch my child while I look for housing, then not having to worry about where my child's going to sleep frees me up to do what I need to do to find a place. Another mom actually had just had twins, had not slept in 5 weeks, had brought her twins back to the hospital to turn them in because she said, I'm having bad fantasies, you know, and I need to, because she had no sleep. And she said, I just need to protect these kids from me. And the hospital very wisely called Together for Good, said, hey, could you, you know, we picked up the twins. Yeah. All mom really needed, she needed some just mental health care, which really sleep, first of all. And then they worked out a plan where we had them for 2 weeks. So she got the help she needed, mostly just rest, and then was able to say, so every weekend, someone's taking one of the twins, giving her that chance to recuperate, to catch up. And that's what she wanted, you know. And then this mom, because we had started out with her, actually started coming to church with us, which was also just a way that you get to minister to the families themselves. Mm-hmm. And it's a very positive situation versus many times when you do foster care, your communication is through the court system. And so now when you're dealing with families, sometimes there's just a lot of anger.
Yes.
It's hard. You know, any one of us who's a mom, we don't want anybody taking our kids, you know, those are my babies.
Yes.
So, but they're in a situation where it's not safe or, you know, there's issues that need to be addressed. So, but it does become a different situation once it's foster care. Now the kids are taken, you know, so now we found with situations that we've been in, you know, we were with Together for Good. The mom was so happy that we have the child. And now suddenly, even though we were asked, you know, by the family to be foster parents, now we're part of the problem, you know, in her life, you know, wanting to have a child.
So we had the same mom that we had watched her child into respite care, and then CPS had to step in after we had returned the child. And she called us and said, would you please be willing to be the foster parents? We said, sure. But now we had to follow the court's rules.
Yes.
And so that changed.
Right.
So
the story's different.
So you have respite care. You have foster care. You have foster to adopt, which is now you're in the system, but the goal is not reunification. The goal is that you will become their forever family. And then you just have adoption. Many times that can happen also through private agencies. So all of that's kind of a spectrum where you're bringing children into your home who are not your biological children, but for whatever time you are their parents. You are caring for them.
I love that you're walking us through that, especially for people that have never entered the system or understand, as you said, the spectrum of possibilities. Some people say, well, I'm not ready to adopt, but maybe you could be a foster parent with the goal of reunification, or maybe you could be that family that provides respite care on the weekends for that mom that just needs to get things sorted out. So there are multiple opportunities, is what I'm hearing, for us, the church, to be involved.
And like Rhonda said, the church should be the place where this happens. So ministries like Together for Good, which is now branching out into other states, they're only doing this through the church because they want it to be Christian families who are taking these in, and because we share those same values, and so that we know that this is why we're doing this. But there are other churches who have done it at other levels. We were both part of a church in LA that one year decided to offer training for foster families, and actually invited Child Protective Services from Los Angeles. There's a massive crisis of kids in the system, and there's just not enough people. And so our church opened their doors, and here's what they said. We're going to ask people to come for a full night of training, to train to either be, number one, foster parents, or to be youth mentors, which means you would go to group homes. And basically, you would be like a big brother or big sister to one of the youth who's in a group home who's not going to be in foster care. Or you become part of a small group that now comes around one of the foster families. And basically that small group is doing respite care for the foster family in your church. So CPS comes to do this training. To their shock, 500 people showed up.
Wow.
For training
My
our church.
word.
They were blown away. And here's what they said. It was the first time they had done this. And they said, we have this crisis, and we never thought of the church as the place to go for the answer. And it actually started something in LA where other churches were now saying we can do. So there's multiple ways for the church to be involved. And if you have foster families in your church, you have respite care ministries in your church, you can also have other people in the church who say, I can't open my home to a child, but I can be part of a small group that will come around one of these homes and we'll provide support. You need us to do a grocery run, we'll do a grocery run. You need us to bring something to you, we'll do that. To have a day at the park, we bring our kids to meet these kids who may not have any friends, we'll do that. And so there's all of these ways for the church to just be able to step in and to provide this. And when we talk about the spectrum, I also want to be clear, we're only speaking out of our experience.
Yes.
So Rhonda and I are not social workers. We're not mental health care specialists. We're not lawyers. And here's the thing, all of those groups have a different experience of this process.
Yes.
And we've worked with all three groups and realized they all come at it from a different angle. And we're not in any of those areas. We're just a married couple who have been on this journey from respite care to foster care, and it's respite that brought us into foster care, but also have had another adoption journey that just has not happened for us the way that we hoped.
Oh, and that's heartbreaking. So I don't want to go there if you don't want to go there.
It's fine. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
No, I want to be sensitive. For those who have failed adoption, you've walked the journey of the heartbreak. Speak to that couple that might be listening that is not sure that they want back in after the heartbreak. What are two things from your own experience, from your journey of healing, that you would want to speak into their situation today as they're listening? We want a word of hope, obviously, but of reality, because you can certainly connect with where they are right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when the adoption, we were so excited. It's surreal when you've been waiting for a while. We waited for, 3 years-ish, and then one of the moms chose us, and then We got to meet her
and
once.
let me just explain this to give background. So in a lot of adoptions, what you do is, you present yourself to a community that says, we have moms who are coming in, who are looking. They can go through books where they're like, okay, so this family, here they presented themselves in this book. They presented themselves in this book, and this book. And so, many times you're dealing with families that are just coming from a variety of socioeconomic places. Some of them are younger, some of them are older, some of them
sometimes they're married, sometimes they're not.
They present
it's just
differently.
a different situation.
And then moms choose who they would like to raise that child, that this person best reflects me or what I want. And so, how was it, 3 years?
Yeah, we were in a pool. So at that time, in the 2018, we decided to do adoption, and then we heard about Together for Good. So then we were doing those simultaneously, which was wonderful, because when you're waiting for a child to join your family, you have love that you want to give, and there's no child there to give that to. And I mean, we had a child already, so of course he's, we're lavishing it on him. But so that's kind of where we were. So we, fixed our book up, gave it to the organization. They were presenting it to moms. So by the time we were chosen, we're like, oh my goodness, we don't even know this would happen. We're chosen. So, so we're telling all our friends and, different prayer groups that I was a part of a mom's prayer group, and, we're adopting, and the mom's at the hospital right now giving birth, and she didn't want us at the hospital, so we respect that. And so we were just waiting to hear back and talking to the agency. And what was great is they have people that work with us, and they have people that work with the birth moms. So it's, anyway, it's just a great way. They also did a lot of great training up front, like before we even were put into the pool. So I think, you draw from that. So that's one recommendation. If you, are looking to adopt, make sure that you're filling yourself in, lots of good information out there.
So
tons of
belong
books.
to a community. Ensure that you are not just isolated, but join that community, that pool of people that's there to support you.
Yes, you definitely need support. And, tell people in your community, if you're in a prayer group or a Bible study support group, but a Bible study, let them know what's going on in your family, let them pray for you and pray, carry you through the experience. Because then over the course of, I think, 4 or 5 days. It seems she was in the hospital for longer than a usual birth. But by the time she was being released, she changed her mind. She's going to take the baby home. So in the meantime, we have a child at home that we have said, okay, there's a baby. I mean, the baby's being born now. We have to get him ready for this baby coming.
So the nursery's ready. Everything is ready to, pick up the baby.
And we have a nursery in our home all the time since our son was born, because he was 3 when we lost Donovan. And so, and then we started with respite care. So we've always had a nursery, but just, telling him about the baby and that the baby's going to come. And then, okay, now the baby's not coming. So it was just, I don't know, it was just a big letdown. Like, okay, I guess this isn't the baby that the Lord has for us.
One thing I'd say, when you consider the failed adoptions, you always realize it's not just about your family.
No.
This child already has a mom who's giving birth. And again, many times that mom will change her mind. She absolutely has the right to do so. You just want that child to be in the right environment, but that is the biological mom. And so at times you kind of have to steel yourself. So even in this case, Alan was
like, I'm not sure it's going to come through. I
get the way the mom would you talk to different people and you're like, okay, here's a mom who is fully committed to an adoption process. And then sometimes you are in a conversation, you're like, I'm not sure she's doing this for the right reasons. Because that's the thing. If you want us to raise your child, I want to make sure that you're on board with this. Because a lot of states, you have open adoption policies. And so you're going to continue to be able to follow the process of us raising your child as our child. But that child will also know who you are.
Yes.
And so you want to work with parents who are committed to that, who are open to that, who are willing to create a healthy environment, not someone who feels resentful.
Yeah.
Because you've adopted the child that they willingly gave up. Because at the end of the day, it's about the child's health.
Yes.
And so,
That is so it.
you
Yes.
want it to be that this child will grow up knowing he or she is adopted, knowing that mom and sometimes dad, though in many of these cases it's just mom, gave up the child for the child's good, not because the child wasn't wanted, but because the mom found herself in an impossible situation, and that by knowing that birth mom, that child doesn't ever feel like they've been rejected, but that they maintain that relationship. And so we've seen, parents where they have mom and dad who is raising them. That's their mom and dad. But then they have the birth mom that they might call Mama J or Mama M or what, and that this is who they also know. And so what it does for the child, it just gives them a larger community of people who love them.
And a place
And
of
are invested in
identity for their origin, like where
Yeah.
do I come from, and it depends, it might be that they're the only ones in your household with blue eyes, and it's like, oh, they come from my birth mama or
Yeah.
Mama J, and so it's like, yes, or the curly hair or whatever it might be to give them a sense of belonging. We're speaking about struggles. Obviously, thank you for sharing. I know that moment, I saw your eyes, I'm like, yep, she's going back to that place. And it's genuine. It's genuine and it happens. So thank you for your authenticity and sharing that to help someone who's journeying, who got their hopes up. But as Alan was sharing, they have the right to change their mind.
And if I'm sorry, Elly, if I
No,
may
no,
interrupt.
no.
In many states, even after you've taken the child, there's still a time period where after the mom has signed the papers, where she can still go back and say. And so the very first time we wanted to find out about adoption, we walked into a family services center that was going to instruct us. The lady who was going to instruct us had just left a meeting where in this state, I think it was a 45-day time period, a family had had the baby for 44 days. And the day before it would have been completely final, mom changed her mind. And so she had just walked them through that. They had just left the offices, were coming in. And so that was my introduction to the process.
You're like, this is real.
Seeing this couple who, after 44 days of this being their child, finding out that mom changed her mind. And so I don't say that to discourage anyone, but just that when you walk into an adoption, walk in with both eyes open.
Yes.
Because the laws that are in place are there to protect people, to make sure that there's no undue pressure put on a biological mom, to make sure that everyone who's doing this is committed to this. And so that means that you can't control someone else's decision, and you shouldn't. But that what you're looking for is that relationship with a mom who is committed to you being mom and dad.
That is so beautiful. The fact that both sides are committed to the health of that child and to what's best. Where is this child going to be? What's the best place for them? And sometimes, allowing a mom that month and a half to really sort out, like, do I really want to do this? From both perspective. I'm journeying with you, and in my mind, the nursery's ready. My family, we're big celebratory. We've had gifts for this baby coming in, people coming to meet the new baby over the course of a month, and now having to give that baby up. But like you said, Rhonda, we're there for portions of that child's life if you're doing fostering or whatever, whether it's a weekend through Respite and that child's yours, and the love that you can give and the support is incalculable, priceless, what we're doing. Yeah. As we're speaking about this, I think about other struggles that are real in the spectrum, as Alan, you have termed it. What are some real struggles that people may face if they decide, hey, I want to do the fostering, I want to see families reunified, and I want to step in for whatever portion of this God would have us to support them while mom or the family gets things together, provide a safe place for this child to be. What are some of those real struggles that we need to prepare for and kind of sound the alarm like you've been doing all along.
Well, Elly, you said it, I think, beautifully, that you always parent for a particular time in the child's life. And I think that even if this is your biological child, there comes a point when that child leaves home. Yes. And I've said to Rhonda, anytime you agree to be a parent, you're agreeing to heartbreak. Just period. You've agreed to heartbreak if you're agreeing to parent.
Amen, brother.
Parenting is hard.
It is hard because you're
Doesn't matter
loving a
whose kid-
person. Yeah.
where the kid came from.
Doesn't matter. And because your child will at some point, and of course you want to raise them to be a responsible adult, but there comes a time when a child says goodbye. And so it may be 20 years. It might be 5 years where, you're in a foster situation that, starts and then stops. And you're there for that time in that child's life where they need you. And so the beauty of it, and I'll say this for Rhonda is the most gifted parent with babies that I've ever seen. I call her the baby whisperer.
I love that.
She is amazing at knowing what a child's trying to communicate and being able to meet that need. So we have really focused on babies in much of our foster and respite care. And you have them, and where Rhonda has been great, because we've had some where, like we say, moms in prison give birth, will hold their child until mom gets out. Or we had one mom where wasn't going to get out. And so there was a successful adoption. And what Rhonda has been so great at is loving that child so that that child's able to form attachments. Yes. That child, so that when that child has taken, handed over to the adoptive family or returned to mom, that child knows how to love. Yes. And so you realize that the beauty of it is that we've been at this child's life at a critical moment, and that child may not even remember us, because if a newborn, they're not, but at the same time, what we did for them, yes, and getting them to the place where they could form those new relationships was critical. At the same time, and I'm going to let my wife speak more into this here, the heartbreak is that you pour out your love on a baby, and then that relationship now shifts. And you bring that child to somebody else. And so you have to say goodbye to the child that you've had in your home many times for months, where you've had this relationship that it's just you and the baby. And now, the baby's with mom or the baby's with the new family.
I think for me, there's a couple of moments that this reminds me of when you're talking about this. And back when you were talking about just loving them for a time and then they go. One of the moments I feel like for me in my heart, and I think this is, sometimes it gets to the heart, right? Like if you're going to do this, you have to be prepared in your heart for it. So when I was in Romania, I worked with abandoned babies, and any hospital, like I was there in the, when was it, 2004 to 2007, that time frame. But any hospital you would go into in Bucharest, there would be a patient room that was turned into a nursery. And so there would be rows and rows of babies in different ages and stages. And they were growing up in this room because that's, they were abandoned at the hospital. So I was a part of a ministry. We opened a maternal center for moms and babies. But before we even did that, we were working with the babies there at the hospital. And we were developing an infant massage program and different ways for volunteers to come in and minister to those kids. Another thing that they allowed us to do because of our ministry and our track record, they allowed us to take some of these babies home for like a day or two or over the weekend sometimes. And I remember I was getting ready to leave for the States. And the last weekend I was there, I brought a baby home from the hospital. And, we had such a good time, for those few days. And then I had to take him back and lay him back down in that crib and leave him there. And that's the heartbreak, right? I feel like, I don't even know, I have no idea what's going to happen to this child. I don't know anything about his birth parents. I don't, I know there's a system he's going to, probably end up in an orphanage or whatever, So at that moment, it was a moment with me and God and looking at this little baby in his life. And his life is so precious, and God gave that life to him. And God knows him, and God's going to follow him through his whole life. And whatever part I have, this very small little bit in his life that I got to love him, I love him and I let him go because I have no power to do anything more. And so I did what I could do. I love that child. I found out later that that baby was adopted shortly after that, which is a wonderful story. And some of them, that was the case, and some of them ended up elsewhere. But you know that every child, their life is given by God to them, and he is leading them and guiding them. And we have to trust that God sees the whole picture and that he is with them.
As you're speaking, of course, I'm like, oh my God, with you. And the thought that even whether they're biological or foster or like you're saying, they belong to God. Yes. They're God's first. Mm-hmm. And when you put him down, I'm like in my mind visualizing this. And of course, the heartbreak of having to walk away and thinking, God, he's yours. Yeah. And if I love him, how much more do you love this baby? Yes. And are going to have care for him? So, to every foster mama out there, adoptive, process, wherever you are, just remember that they're God's first and have the comfort that he can care for them far beyond what our care can provide. And yes, when they're ours, that's precious, but he'll take good care of them. And I'm glad that's a success story. That baby got adopted, but even throughout their journey, God cares for us, and his care is demonstrated over and over.
Because part of the pain of fostering, you asked that question, it is saying goodbye. Even though, in particularly in fostering, the pain of adoption is when it's a failed adoption. The pain of fostering is that up front, if you do this well, there'll be a reunification. And so you love this child, knowing this child is not going to stay there forever.
And I say, it's not always up to us that there would be reunification. If we do this well, there still might not be reunification.
Oh, that's true.
The parents have to do their part in order for the child to be able to come home. And we're doing everything we can to support and encourage them in our interactions with them and with the child. So, yes.
And sometimes, and I'll just, the state, one of the worst powers the state has is to take a child out of someone's home. I'd say probably next to waging war and the death penalty. That's the worst thing the state does that at times is necessary. And the state takes that very seriously. One thing I've noticed is how many courts bend over backwards to reunify as quickly as they can, to give sometimes parents a certain set of standards that just show me stability, just show me sobriety, just show me this.
Show me that you're making some progress.
Because it's a horrible power to remove a child from a parent. And so at times what that means, though, is reunification happens and the child is leaving your stable home and is going back to a much less stable environment because those are the biological parents. And so you see that and you know that this child is going to go from a place where there's no one yelling to a place where at times people try to break in. And they're going to go from a place where they feel safe to a place where they don't feel safe, but they're going back home. And so you have to be willing to recognize that this is where the side is always at, is reunification, and that's the goal. And sometimes I'll give you an example. We had one child foster situation, very rough. So this child had a biological dad, a biological mom, neither of living together, and then a biological sibling who was with another dad. Oh, wow. And so we had to do parent visits and family visits throughout the week. And so biological dad had so many visits, biological mom had so many visits, biological sibling had so many visits, right? Mm-hmm. And Rhonda...
It was 6 days a week we were going somewhere, and that poor little baby, he was 2 years old, and he just wanted to stay home and play and take a nap in his bed.
But you're like, no, you need to,
Yes, comply.
But then, of course, we were the only consistent people. And so I had biological dad say to me once, he said, I just want you to know, I recognize how much you're taking care of my son, and I also hate you. And and I just want to get that out of the way, that I recognize everything you're doing for my son, but I hate you. And because I would sometimes drop him off and he would cling to my leg.
Yes.
And because we are
He's developing bonds.
we're developing bonds. So the last day of our foster situation was going to be Reunification Day. And what they did was they brought every family member into a room. So here's bio dad, bio mom, here's the dad of the bio sibling, and they basically explained the process and the decisions and all this, and then they brought the child in. Now here's the thing, the child had never seen everyone in the same room at the same time.
Wow.
Because these people aren't in relationship with each other, and so are not continued relationship. So he comes in and he freezes because every adult he knows is in the room. They're all calling his name, and he bolts and comes to me.
Of course, safety.
And wraps his arm, around my leg, and you could just feel the air go out of the room. Mm-hmm. And Rhonda very quickly played it off as, oh, he hasn't seen Alan the longest, and I'm like, hey, let's go to your mom, so yeah. But you're having to navigate that.
That was tough.
And and your heart is also breaking. Because you recognize the point of this has always been reunification, but you're having to say goodbye to a child who at that moment in their life, they're seeing you as the safety.
Yes.
And you're having to close that door knowing they, at least at that age, they don't understand why that door is being closed. And so that's hard. I remember this child actually came back to us, just mom brought him by for a visit, which was beautiful. Bio mom saying, he wants to see you. He wanted to go to his bedroom that had been our house to see if it was still there. And I recognized that. He was pointing. I said, let's go. And then he immediately, he just wanted to be reassured.
He wanted to go and see the playroom. See all the toys.
The playroom. He wanted to be reassured that world still existed. And he didn't even play. He just wanted to see it. And then he was happy. And so you realize there's this sense of safety that you're providing. But part of the pain of fostering is saying goodbye. Even though at the beginning that if it works the way it's supposed to for everybody, and I appreciate you saying that, it's everybody. But if it works the way it's supposed to, you're supposed to say goodbye. You're only there for a certain time in their life.
So looking at the end at the beginning calls for preparation, and that's kind of what you're walking us through. And as our listeners are, like me, drawn into these different scenarios and experiences, how do we help them prepare spiritually and emotionally? Because they're bringing into their home children who have experienced trauma. The fact that they're being separated from their biological family, that creates trauma instantaneously, along with any other scenarios that they might have lived, whether abuse or drugs or things, neglect. Just the sheer fact that they're being separated from their home and stripped away from everything that they've known creates trauma for them. What are some things that can help parents, families prepare, both in the aspect of emotionally or physically? I know you have a nursery going all the time, right? So now we know that. So I bring someone very special to your house because I know he can play. But also spiritually, because there is a responsibility to those that we're caring for.
You sidetracked me when you talked about the nursery. I'm like, oh yeah, in our nursery, in our home. I'm back there again with my babies.
No, and that's part of the preparation, right?
Yeah.
The physical space, our emotional state, kind of knowing the end. You're going to have to release this child, but you need to love them genuinely and authentically. But also we're preparing in other ways, and spiritually is one of those.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think you need to make sure that you are prepared, that you are strong spiritually, don't neglect your spiritual care of yourself. I think another thing, you mentioned the trauma that the kids face, and I think it's really important for you to receive some type of training in trauma care and to understand the signs and, Alan mentioned that I'm really good at reading baby signs, and I am. It just seems intuitive. Like, don't you see? That's what he's saying. And so
I have no idea. My joke has always
Not
been
really.
all the
Not really, but help me.
all the babies at our home know her as Mama, and I'm Mama's apprentice, right? That's how
I'm
I know.
Mama's helper. I'm
That's
okay
all I
with
am.
it.
She says this is what it is. I just go with it.
But I think there's signs sometimes with trauma that aren't what you would get from a normal, a child who's healthy and been in a good environment. And so recognizing those signs and knowing then how to help, like what is it that they need? Do they need space? Do they need to know that there's enough food in the house that I can eat later too? I don't have to squirrel it in my cheeks, or, like just different things that, to see the signs of what they've faced and to be able to help them through those. And as parents, we're not going to be able to solve all their struggles, and solve that for them, but in whatever ways we can, to reassure them and help them through those things that they've faced and that they're facing as children.
Yeah, we had one child come into our home who at a very young age was already a master manipulator.
So she was a year and a half.
It's like
A
survival.
year and a half.
They're like,
as
hey,
soon as the bigger person comes into the room, she's like, her attention is how do I? But you said it's a trauma response. She has learned how to survive at such a young age. We had another sibling set where we had a 2-year-old who was overly protective of his 1-year-old sister in a way that you wouldn't think a 2-year-old would be that.
He shouldn't have been that aware that his
This
sister,
is my role.
Yeah, like I don't need to take care of this other little one over here.
Yes.
Like that should be his playmate, not who he's
But
caring
you realize
for.
that there's trauma that has led to this. And I will say this for anyone who's considering foster care, they're like, oh no, how do I take these classes? If you're getting certified, they'll give you the classes. This isn't something you have to seek out for yourself. Different states have different qualifications, certifications, but they will make sure that you have had the appropriate education, information given to you before you open your home.
And there are also websites that have lots of great classes. We were connected to an adoption agency that provided us with lots of information, and most of them, I think, have a lot of resources in that. But there are classes if you feel like you don't have enough, resources. But like he said, with this, we're foster through the state, through the county. And so they send us resources all the time. So if you feel like you're not getting enough, you can always seek out more. But like you said, they do try to empower you so that you're not just like, oh, I don't know what to do here. So
Yeah. And they're there to support. So in a foster situation, you have state support. You have resources, you have medical, you have all these things that are coming around you to give you what you need. But to answer your other question, you talked about spiritual readiness. I also want to talk about marital readiness.
Yes.
That when you're doing this as a couple, you actually have to know that you can work together in this, that you know what each other's skill sets are, because you're going to have disagreements, and you're going to have extra pressure and stress just from having another person in the home. And any parent of a newborn knows what that's like.
Can I just say right here, we have had lots of newborns.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he's speaking from experience here. Newborns are not his forte.
No.
But he knows that is mine, and so we play to that strength. And since I'm at home and he's the one working, but he's a huge support to me in that. So
You're working longer hours, I just want you to say. Because you work all night long with those
Yes.
newbies and then all day long, you know?
day.
Hey, I'm just saying.
as a couple-
I'll go work where he works rather than your shifts, because your shifts don't seem to end.
But
They don't.
You have to know that as a couple, have to know. You learn many times just on the job, but that you already, before you get into this, you're ready to do this together.
you have to both agree. It can't just be me saying, I just want to bring all these kids because I love my babies.
Yeah, and if it was that, we would have 50 kids in our home right now.
I know, we would have more.
Yeah. But
we have to you have to figure out together as a couple and your family, what can you handle? And there will be so many needs that come. Like if you do foster care, there's so many needs and you can't jump at every one of them because your family, you can't handle it, and that's where we need more families who are willing, to say, okay, I'll welcome a family into my home or a child.
And we have a child already, and we have to agree to situations that's also good for him.
And that's been a huge one for us. We've always decided, the whole birth order thing is really important, in a child's development. And so we've only taken children who are younger than our son so that he can always be the oldest. And, much to his chagrin, he would like to have an older sister.
Yeah, he's always wanted an older sister.
I just want you to know older sisters are great. I'm an older sister. I don't know if my siblings would agree, but
as a younger sister, I loved my older sister.
There you
it
go.
was the best.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, we can lend him one. I have two girls. They could be like pseudo sisters. Hey, if you're ever feeling like you want these girls, they'll come over and be the older sister. But you touched upon obviously very important things. And one of them is getting your marriage ready and getting your family ready. What are some steps that parents can take, families can take in preparing their family unit to bring in? In your case, preparing your older son to bring in someone. Sometimes we just think, oh yeah, they'll get used to it or this, and they don't have that time of preparation. So what are 3 things that families can do to prepare the family unit to bring in a foster sibling?
So what we've done in our son at different ages, I've noticed that it's different depending on his age. So now he's 10. So he can have really in-depth conversations about this. But even when he was 5, I would talk to him about, okay, there's a baby who's going to come. I include him in the care of the child. And so it was really fun for me and my son to, I'm teaching him how to take care of a baby. And so he really absorbed that as a 5-year-old. We gave him a heads up that this was coming. He saw the preparation, and as we were walking the days leading up to the baby coming to us, but then, including him in that care, that's huge because now they have ownership in that. And, he got a chance to bond as well with the baby, not just me taking care of the baby and taking care of him. So that was one. But now as he's older, he's 10 now. And so we talk more about, well, why do we do this? And why is this child here? Why are we bringing kids? Wouldn't it be easier, if we just didn't have any babies and then we could go and do whatever, And he thinks that sounds great. But then we talk about, well, but what would happen to this baby? And where's he going to go? Who's going to take care of him? And, he needs a home. And he needs somewhere, he needs people to love him. And, you can be a great big brother. And our son really is an amazing big brother. And so, leaning into those.
He has leaned into that role so
well. I've watched him, and he is as gentle and tender as both of you are. He really is exceptional. Not only like super brilliant and smart. Yeah, he is. But just a gentle soul and kind, like you can see, and that's my hat's off to you, Mama, and of course, Alan, you're very gentle.
Daddy's a big part of that, Daddy's modeled that. But I do think, it's important. We're parenting our children through the parenting of other children too. We're teaching them as we take care of someone else, teaching them how to do the same.
So you have to prepare them. So, and again, part of this is just like if you're pregnant and you already have a child, you have to prepare them for the newborn. You prepare them for this, but what you also have to do is you have to prepare them to say goodbye. And that's the more painful process for a child.
That is
if they have had a baby in their home for months and now that baby is going back somewhere, that they already know that this is part of the process. So in a foster situation, and that we have to be ready for this. And then you also have to make sure that they're getting the attention they need. Because, my son is a mama's boy. And when we have a newborn, that newborn requires all of mama's time. And
Someone's in my territory.
I know.
Yeah.
Recently, he said to me, "What happened to Mama and me?"
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
So what I have to do is as dad, because I will do stuff with him a lot. I love having a son. I'll just say that I absolutely love having a son.
Look at you! You lit up.
Oh my word! I have.
This man does not jump up and down, but when he found out he was having a son, he jumped up and down.
I'm very happy.
yeah.
Not that I wouldn't love a daughter, but I was just I'm so happy to have a son. And but I've said at times to Rhonda, okay, I'm going to take the baby because you need to just spend time with him. And sometimes I've set up special kind of like mom-son dates where things that they
Ellen's
would
great
both
at
love
this.
to do, because I'm like, he just needs your full attention today. I've got the baby because you've set everything up in the house where it's
He's
easy.
fed, he's
I
changed.
know how to manage.
He's napping.
Yes.
This is a good time. Go
Exactly.
now.
I said,
Go
and
now.
I know what to do when he wakes up, right? But you prepared me. He'll be fine. Now, when he sees you, he'll be like, but because every time the baby looks at me, he's like, Team B. Team B is here. You can see it on his face. He's judging me. But you're setting it up to say, and our son comes home and he's so happy. And to hear even little things sometimes. So the other day he wanted to race you to the mailbox. And it was just have a run with mom. And I hear them laughing in the yard. And it's those moments where he has, even for a few minutes, mom all to himself.
Yes.
And they're just having fun. That those kinds of things you want to keep seeing and you want to keep encouraging. And so there are times I'm very intentional about, hey, today is going to be Mommy Sunday,
And it's that intentionality. You have to be intentional. And as, anybody who's a parent, you see these kinds of things and you see the benefit if you are intentional about this.
Oh, absolutely. I've enjoyed our chat so much. It's almost like I need a take two. Like, hey, come back and talk to us. Because I know that we've encapsulated a lot in our few minutes, but this has been a journey of years. And there's definitely pivotal moments along the journey that have made you the wonderful people that you are. I could see the joy that you bring to the calling. This is your life calling. We all have a purpose, and this is it. And this is the assignment, that God has for you. And you exemplify Jesus so well. So thank you for loving the way you do, and for the the Team A, Team A plus. And I am just so delighted that God brought you to Springfield for this season so that I would have the honor of getting to know you and getting to know your family, but also create a space where other families can learn from you and be encouraged. Like, yes, there'll be painful moments, but they outweigh the value that you are imparting on this life forever. Your little grain of sand, these moments. And we didn't go too deeply into attachment. Attachment disorder is real and it can't be fixed. And what you're doing is incalculable and invaluable for those children to be able to have healthy relationships in the future. So we'll have to come back and circle back and give some tips for those that are, maybe receiving these babies. And so I think that'll be a whole episode. So stay tuned. Any closing remarks? What are 2 or 3 things you would hope that those that are listening or viewing would take away from our time together?
One, this is an incredible ministry at whatever level you work in. So respite care is incredible because it helps families in crisis so the state doesn't have to step in. Foster care is incredible because when that crisis has already happened, that child needs someone for that time in their life. Adoption is incredible because here's a child who's looking for a home. That you're able to say that will be your forever family. And if you're considering this, I just want to say to any pastor even listening, this is an incredible space for the church. Because when the church provides support, it frees parents and families to say, I think I can do this.
That's true.
A lot of times what holds people back who may feel a heart for this is, I don't know if I'm going to have the support I need. And when the church is doing this together, suddenly you feel like I'm empowered, I'm emboldened, I know I can bring a child into my home. And at the end of the day, what ties all these together is that you're bringing a child into your home for a set time. That time might be their whole childhood, but you're there to love them for whatever time God gives you, and there's no higher calling than to love a child.
Oh, yes.
And so it's a beautiful thing, and I just want to encourage all churches. This is a ministry that the church, if you have this, you're doing something that pleases God.
Amen.
And I can't imagine something that pleases God more than what you do for the little ones.
Absolutely. Would you close us out in prayer for those that are listening, that might feel a tug in their heart and are asking the Holy Spirit, Lord, what's next?
I'd love to, and I'll let my wife finish the prayer.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Father, I just want to thank you that you are a father to us, and you show us what it means, God, to bring people in, because, Lord, you have already adopted us into your family. God, you call us to care for those who are the least. You call us to care for those who are without resources, and there's no one more in danger than a child without a family, a child with a family in crisis who needs someone else to step in. Lord, I thank you for giving us the opportunity to say yes, to be those parents who are willing to love, to care for, to provide for whatever time you give us what that child needs. And God, I just pray that if anyone listening to this says this is something they are concerned about, they are interested in, Lord, that you would continue to speak to their hearts, to know that this is of you, and that when they say yes to a child, they're saying yes to you.
I thank you, Lord, that you love children, that you love families, Lord. I ask you, Lord, to call families to ministry to children beyond their biological children, Lord. And I ask you to strengthen families, Lord, so that they will be able to open their home and that they will be able to care for the children in their home, but that they will be able to welcome and love children well, whether they're their biological children, foster, or adoptive children, Lord. I just thank you, Lord. I ask you to strengthen families and let them know your love for them. And I thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for being with us. And to you that have enjoyed as much as I have, because I know it's been a rich episode, would you consider sharing it with someone in your circle? There might be someone who recently had a conversation and might be pondering and wondering, should we foster, should we adopt? I think they would glean a lot of good gold nuggets in preparation for this season in their life. So until next time, please check out our website and other resources as we seek to support you in the most important assignment, to raise godly children. God bless you and God keep you.
Thank you for joining us in these powerful conversations that support real talk on navigating faith-based parenting. And if you love this episode as much as we did, be sure to like and subscribe so we can invite you back. And connect with us on our socials, Ignite Parenting on Facebook and Instagram, or visit igniteparenting.com. We hope we've inspired you to learn and grow in raising lifelong followers of Jesus, building our church, our family.